Hello and welcome to Movie of the Year, the only podcast with the science and the screaming to determine the best movie for any given year. This season, we are, of course, doing 1988. I am your host, Greg. This is sort of my little podcast, my little game show where I have some of my friends on to talk about a movie, and then I make them duke it out to see who's going to be my best friend. Current best friend is Ryan. Hello, Ryan.
Hi, Greg. Thank you so much for having me. I mean, you had to. You're contractually obligated to bring me back, but I still appreciate it anyway. You sent a nice little invitation out.
Yeah.
Save the date first, and then an invitation, and I appreciate it. Like, your calligraphy skills are getting crazy good.
I work on it a lot. Just the notes I'm sending to you, that's like 20 hours a day. Also receiving various notes from me. Taylor, how are you, Taylor?
I'm doing great. Unfortunately, my notes that I get from you are usually like, hey, you're bad at this. But
Yeah. Well, or like better luck next time, bud, but then a
Yeah.
thumbs down.
Yeah, the thumbs down really.
That's mixed messages.
Yeah, the first part, love it.
Yeah.
Thumbs down. I don't appreciate that.
I think the most fun kind of game show to be on is one where the host is clearly rooting for not you and the other person, so they could be best friends.
Yeah, it's a great experience.
I think, the show has been really good for everybody who has been on it.
Yeah, I think it's been really healthy for
Taylor,
all of us.
If I'm not mistaken, I was looking over, I keep a ledger of the wins and losses, and you have never won. Is that correct?
Unfortunately, I've technically never won.
Yeah.
I think fan favorite
would
be a title that I hold.
And
every
you know that
time.
in addition to winning, you get to be my best friend for a week. So just like walk us through what you think that would be like.
Well, I think it would be like just our normal interactions,
every
but
day.
like we actually get to use the name and Ryan's not there.
Uh-huh.
So I feel like that would be
Wait, you guys are already acting as if you're man and best friend?
just
Without the title?
I just wanted to run through what that would be like so I know what my options are.
Well, I mean, I feel like we would do a lot of like we would like hold hands and skip through a field of flowers.
Man.
And I bet the amount of picnics is insane.
I held hands with my childhood best friend, Ian. I won't say his last name. Until we were like 10 years old.
Whoa.
And the older kid was just like, what are you doing? And we were like, we're walking around holding hands because we're best buds.
Yeah.
And he was just like, oh, I have to socialize you on this. You can't do that. And you know what? Fuck you, Keith. Yes, we can. I wish I was still holding hands with my best friends. Masculinity is a prison. Yeah. It's weird that I can't hold hands with my best friend, one of my favorite people on earth. That's so weird.
But I appreciate Keith, like, using it as a teachable moment as opposed to just kicking the shit out of you two.
Yeah.
That's what most Keiths do.
I think he was trying to help, but you know what, Keith? You were not helping.
Was it? I have to ask this contractually. Was it Keith Urban?
It was Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones, and I just think that is so unusual that he would even be involved.
Because your best friend was Mick Jagger, and he
like,
got jealous.
You can't hold hands with your best friend. And I was like, whoa, that's a very believable accent. And he was like, bloody right.
Yeah, I also didn't know that Keith Richards was in the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
He was. He definitely was. But we are not talking about the Rocky Horror Picture Show. We are talking about My Neighbor Totoro. And before we dive in here, guys, let's get into like general impressions. What did you think of Totoro?
Here's why this movie's bullshit.
Whoa.
Uh-oh.
Whoa, the guns
no.
are drawn and on the table.
I signed up for a lot of fun and whimsy.
Yeah.
I didn't sign up to feel things.
No.
So fuck this movie.
You want to just look at like a big furry thing.
Yeah, I just want to look at the big furry thing and be like, oh, look at how big and furry he is. I love him.
Uh-huh.
So, like, cat bus fanfic porn. That's what you wanted.
Yeah, well, that's what I did afterwards.
Wait, looked at or made?
Well, I mean, I first I went to Google. I typed in cat bus rule 34, and nothing popped up. So I was like, well, I got to like get on whatever potheal.net. We're all familiar, and I created an account, and now everything that you find on there, that's me.
Not that expectations mean anything, but it took me a while to realize that I was expecting thousands of creatures in a fantasy world that we were in for the entire movie.
Yeah.
And this was not that. This
movie is not Spirited Away.
No, this movie is not Spirited Away. Spirited Away has hundreds of different characters.
Yeah.
I think I had the advantage of I've never seen Spirited Away, so I didn't know what to expect. I did expect more than just the big guy. I was like, there's probably gonna be
there's
more.
also the medium guy and the little guy.
Oh,
right?
you know, right? You're right. That was
like
medium
the
and
little guy.
erasure.
There's a part early in the movie where little guy is walking around and he realizes he's like neglected to make himself invisible. So he's like, whoops, I got to get invisible here, and then he does it. It's rad.
And you know what's cool about Japan? No mention of porridge and like what their favorite porridges are. They like all flavors. They like all beds. it doesn't matter. They don't have to have their own specific thing based on size.
I would also like to come out and say I like all beds, but I think I'm a no porridges guy.
No matter the temperature?
I don't think there's I couldn't imagine you hand me something and say, Greg, this is porridge, and I'm a satisfied customer.
I'm not sure that I've ever eaten porridge.
A porridge.
Like what is a porridge?
I think it's just like oatmeal.
Orphan food.
I think it's like oatmeal with like a lot of water and like maybe some starch in there.
That does not sound appealing.
No, it's supposed to be awful.
Why?
It's punishment for being poor.
Oh.
It's porridge.
Oh.
It's for poor people.
Okay.
And with that, we are going to get right into in-depth conversation about this movie. But before we do, we're going to stop off somewhere I like to call Mount Rushmore.
Mount Rushmore!
In a time where I think we celebrate rushing less, there is a monument to rushing more. It is where 4 different presidents from 4 different eras and universes are entombed, and it's meant to represent everything that is great about one particular time. That time is 1988, and the topic today is hot girls. Now, you remember we did the Hot Boys?
We already did Hot Boys.
We get them out of the way, and now it's time to jump in to some hot girls. Ryan.
Yeah.
Can you start us with someone that is deserving of being on Mount Rushmore as a hot girl?
This is rough. I want this person... Like, there's a lot of people who were incredibly hot in 88.
Yeah.
But are also known for other years in the 80s as well.
Or were men.
Not in the 90s. Nobody from the 80s made it to the 90s. But I want...
That was kind of a bummer.
I want this person... Like, I want you to see this head, and you're like, oh, 88. We are in 88 right now. And so... Although there may be more iconic, I want to start with Kelly Bundy herself, Christina Applegate.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And this was pre Kelly Bundy is like a low IQ moron. And this was like young teenage punk rock Kelly Bundy.
Yeah.
And she owned the heart of 1988.
Who was like maybe slow, but not like medically stupid.
Right. Not like Joey Tribbiani stupid.
Super disturbing. Yeah, it's always weird to have your hot characters getting so dumb that you start like worrying about them. Is this dude wearing a diaper? How in '88, Married with Children was going strong?
Yeah, it's like 2nd or 3rd season, and so now it was like, what the fuck is Fox? There's a show on Fox, and people started now watching this 4th network.
In '88, were people doing the thing where when Kelly Bundy would come in, they would like whistle and howl?
Hardcore.
Oh, I forgot until you just said that was ever a thing.
And now I do it in the movie theater. Anytime anybody walks in the door, I am howling like a Tex Avery cartoon.
I just watched that Netflix show she was on, and every time she walked in, I was like, "Auga!"
And then your eyes popped out of your head, your jaw hit the floor, and your tongue rolled out like a red carpet.
Pretty lady. But she is going to go on the mountain, of course.
Awesome.
Because she gets one. Skadoosh. All right, Taylor, only 3 spots left on the mountain.
I feel like I always end up in this situation. And
it gets early late around these parts.
Sure, that doesn't make any sense to me. But I am going to throw someone who I think...
Oh, wait, I forgot to give Ryan his point.
Taylor, shut up.
Let me just absolutely, totally derail you there just so I can do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw someone who I think should go right on there. Someone who this was her like peak. This is before we sort of turned on her as a culture, and now she's made her resurgence.
Sarah Palin?
Yeah, I want Sarah Palin on it. No, it is Winona Ryder, who was in Heathers this year.
And in
Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Right?
I remembered that she was in Beetlejuice. Definitely.
You should be on the Beetlejuice episode. Winona Ryder, very strong choice.
I feel like this was her year.
Pretty young,
Pretty young in 88.
How old was she?
She looked like, I mean, Beetlejuice, she plays a straight-up teenager. Heathers...
Yeah, she was like 19?
9, I think. I would say too young to be hot.
What?
And not really. I feel like she wasn't put into parts where she was very hot. So I'm going to put her on the maybe pile. This is not a slight against Winona Ryder.
Dare you.
But for whatever reason, I guess because I think of Beetlejuice, and I think of her as being like, seriously like 15 in Beetlejuice.
Right.
I don't know how old she is, but the character seems like that old.
Yeah, she was 18 in 1988.
Okay. So that's, I guess. Anyway, I'm feeling creepy. Ryan,
so
take
too
me
old then?
Ryan, take me away.
Okay. The other, I think, lady who just came into her sexiness on TV at this time, so iconic that Star-Lord named his ship after her. Do you guys remember what his ship was called?
The Dianne Feinstein.
Nope, not the Diane Weist. He was on the Milano because of Who's the Boss and Alyssa Milano, Queen of 1988.
Is that what we know her from?
That is that's what we first know her from.
And then Poison Ivy.
And then she was in Poison Ivy. And then I think that goes directly
Name something I've seen.
into Project Runway. She's like the alternate host for Project Runway.
Nope.
She invented those cookies, those Pepperidge Farm cookies.
She's like,
okay, yeah.
I don't know if you remember. I think it was in the Kavanaugh hearings.
Yeah,
she just kept leaning out into the aisle.
That was the thing that
I was frowned at him for like the entire day, and it felt so good.
And she recently tried to get a sex protest thing going on. All women stop fucking the boys.
And that was like, I felt like that was the end of the journey.
Yeah,
I felt like a lot of people were like following behind Alyssa Milano, but she tried to do Alyssa Strada, I guess, and it did not work out. But that's what we're doing. That's what we're dealing with now.
Right.
Back in the day, Alyssa Milano, extremely beautiful, dare I say, hot, and right up on the mountain.
Yeah, boy.
Ryan. Taylor, it would be rude of both of us if you didn't get one on the mountain here.
I'm gonna be upset.
I'm gonna be disappointed in both of us.
I will too. So here I'm gonna throw someone who, this is gonna be bad for me. I don't know who people in the 1988s were.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't have the internet.
Yeah.
You just have the time machine, but it only goes back to 89.
And they must kind of look weird to you, having not like existed in that time.
Yeah, I'm like, these aren't people.
It was easy to tell who was attractive back then. It's gotten difficult now because fashion is so cyclical. It's getting easier again.
Yeah. No,
but for a while there, it was impossible to tell who was good looking in the 80s.
So I'm going to throw someone on who this was not her ingenue year. But it was her
Happy ingenue year.
It was her ingenue 4th of July.
Is that sauce that you get with like a roast beef sandwich?
Yeah, you dip it in. So I'm gonna dip this actress right on into some ingenue, and it's Daryl Hannah, who had just completed Wall Street.
Yes.
She's in her mature prime, so she doesn't look young apparently to you people.
Daryl Hannah is right up on the mountain. Daryl Hannah, one of those people who could also span like multiple
She was like
decades.
Yeah, she kept it for like a long time. Whereas like these, even like boys, girls, when you're hot, you get like maybe 3 years.
Yeah.
Remember Sam Worthington or whatever his name was?
Cal
the
Worthington?
Avatar guy?
Yeah, the Avatar guy. Everyone was like, this guy's super hot. Done.
It's over.
He's dead in a ditch somewhere.
You blew it. It's over. All right, Ryan, one spot left.
Okay.
Are you just going to throw the door on this, or are you going to put a maybe up there to be sporting?
I mean, should I do that? I think I can slam the door right now. But
slam it home.
Okay.
Give me a slam AD.
It's a bit of a cheat, which might get me out of it or make me not get it. But in '88, this is pre-Cindy Crawford, when like supermodels became supermodels, and there was a 3-headed monster of Naomi Campbell, Chrissy Turlington, and Linda Evangelista of the House Evangelista. They all sort of come as a package, right? So it'd be hard to break them up just because they were so famous at the same time. They became friends. But if we had a third, or if the fourth head was 3 heads, I think that would serve 88 correct.
He can't keep getting away with this.
Yeah, I'm gonna smack you down.
Is it at least on the maybe pile, or just
it's on?
off?
We'll put it on the maybe pile. I think you have to be a little more connected than these 3 women who are just connected by. I see your argument. I like where your head's at. It's just too much.
What if it was one
also,
body,
you
3
said
heads?
3-headed. Yeah, that threw me off. When you said 3-headed, I just imagined like a regular sized neck with 3 heads spouting out of it, and it was bad. All right, Taylor. A rare fumble by the champion of champions.
Well, this was the year that Michelle Pfeiffer was in Dangerous Liaisons.
Oh, damn.
Let's put Michelle Pfeiffer right up on this mountain. Am I right?
Okay, but it was not the year of Batman Returns, and it was not the year of the Fabulous Baker Boys. 2 much more suiting years for her. This is when she was in period piece, makeup, and gross costumes.
Oh, yeah. So we can't put her on just because there were other things that she was hotter in, even though she was one of the hottest women in this year anyway.
And this is to say nothing of 95, okay, when she was the hottest teacher who would turn her hat around, sit in a chair backwards, and teach kids about Bob Dylan.
She just basically did things backwards. Taylor
come
gets
on.
it. Michelle Pfeiffer, very, very attractive for 88. All right, Ryan, what is the mountain?
Your Rushmore of 88 hot girls. Christina Applegate, Alyssa Milano, Daryl Hannah, and Michelle Pfeiffer.
Well, what an attractive mountain. Certainly more attractive than the one we have up there now with all those crusty old presidents. When we come back, we're going to get to talking about Totoro!
Hurry up, May. It's gonna rain. Okay.
Are you off to meet your dad at the bus stop?
Yes, he forgot his umbrella. It's okay, May. He'll be here soon. Totoro?
Gentlemen, this movie is 100% definitely about childhood and being a child. But what does it have to say that is fresh or different or new on that topic?
About childhood.
About childhood specifically. Is there anything about this movie that you think nails childhood in a way that's different than your average childhood story?
Honestly, the thing that stuck out to me the most, and I don't know if this is exactly answering your question, but the childhood thing that got me was the girls, and although they look stylized, they act like more like normal children than any live action movie I've ever seen. In like sometimes even more than real little girls that I've seen. You know,
especially as I felt like, sorry to interrupt, but I felt like they act very genuine as a big sister little sister combo.
Yeah, it reminded me of me and my little brother, like in ways. Because I also think because it was set in a somewhat rural setting, like that felt very true to my childhood, where we were just like, whatever, go find like some sticks and go play outside. And it's like, all right, cool. But yeah, like the kids had like a sense of just like joy and fun with just like literally nothing.
Yeah, that
I felt like was very realistic.
And the important thing is the dialogue, because even back then, every kid's movie, every kid character was precocious, you know, and like was sarcastic, and said these things that kids would never say. All of this dialogue is perfect, and all of the animation, again, it's very stylized, right? But there's some stuff that is so true to life. One example is when Satsuko, the older sister, gets upset. Satsuki, she runs away and cries, like big sisters do. Whereas May, who's like closer to 4, she cries in one part. She stands there screaming for 1 second, and then slowly marches away, so you feel every ounce of her screaming. And that's how big sisters and little sisters do.
I love what a little badass she is.
Oh, yeah.
I love how when she's with her big sister, she basically just copies and repeats everything her big sister says in a way that I found so true. I remember, I'm a little brother to a sister who's 7 years older than I am. All I did was like basically follow her around and try to figure out how you were supposed to be cool, because she obviously was cool. She was basically an adult. And that's exactly what May does as a little sister. And then when she's alone, it just seems like she runs up to stuff and just fucking bellows at it.
Yeah.
Just screaming at stuff all day long.
One of my favorite moments was her running up to a bucket that has a hole in it, and she just looks and goes, what a stupid bucket. And that was just delightful. But I also feel like at least in the dub that I watched, the voice acting really played that sister relationship well, because it was Dakota and Elle Fanning.
Oh, okay.
So they just played off of each other. And I feel like that really worked well.
I meant to ask off the bat, the way I did with Akira, did you watch the subtitled and the dubbed, or just the dub?
This one I watched just the dub.
And you had the Disney studio.
The re-release?
The early 2000s re-release.
Because I watched a little bit of a dub, and I think it was not that one, because it was kind of weird. Yeah. And I also had the subtitles in English on below it. And it just was some of the stuff they said was just so radically different, including when May is missing and her sister's looking for her. At some point in the movie, she's like, it's my fault my sister's missing. in the dub that I watched, at that point, she says it's her fault. It's her fault. It's not my fault. Why would it be explicitly different?
That's very different.
Yeah.
That's the opposite, yo.
I did watch a comparison of the dubs, and I think that the Disney later dub is far, far better. Like, it's just like leaps and bounds.
This is referred to as the Japanese Disney.
Yeah.
Do you guys feel like Disney feels like it almost they tried to make that connection by releasing
taking
a lot
them
of
over.
the properties. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there's any big difference between the Disney and the...
Well, because I had seen later Miyazaki first, I saw like Howl's Moving Castle and Mononoke, Spirited Away before this. I didn't really get the comparison.
Yeah.
You know, with this very early work, I think it's there. You know, and I know that Disney doesn't own Alice in Wonderland, but this is clearly not, Carol's Alice in Wonderland. This is Disney's Alice in Wonderland with, the way that the rabbit looks and the way that there's a big smiling cat that disappears.
Yeah.
The designs are all the same. We have, Totoro spends a lot of transportation time with an umbrella. That feels very Disney-like.
Yeah.
And I think what he's doing here is sort of taking a Disney story, which at this point in 88, it's like Oliver and Company. Like, we're far past the classics. We're just now like loud, screamy, like movies for short attention spans. He went back to the basics before and just made a Disney movie before he could go and do like get very like more Miyazaki-y in later movies.
That's interesting because I started with my first Miyazaki film was Kiki's Delivery Service, which came out the year after this one. And I watched that like when I was still like very young. And because I think it was just on the Disney Channel. So like all of that melded together for me to the point that like I have always considered this to be like for a very long time I thought that Studio Ghibli films were just like an extension of Disney films.
Yeah.
Like I was that. I just believed that. But it is,
and I think Disney like tried to kind of make that the reality.
Yeah, and I get it because it is like Ryan said, like especially this era, like it is very early Disney tone. They have
pacing.
Yeah, pacing. Like it's very slow, and it doesn't follow as much the traditional, like sort of like Akira didn't, the traditional sort of Western story structure. Like this is a slow, very quiet, calm film.
Antagonist free movie.
Right, yeah. It's just like interpersonal drama is the only like thing at stake, and like that's very interesting. And I like when I watched Kiki's Delivery Service as a kid, I was like, this stories aren't supposed to be this way.
Right.
Is it boring?
It's I will say this.
I like this movie. Like I want to say that I like it and I enjoy it, and when I was done with it and I reflected on it, man, I've really been enjoying it in reflecting it.
Yeah.
But there were times when I was watching it where it's just watching two little girls rip ass all around the country, and I love the way they have these girls running.
Yeah.
They sprint everywhere, just like kids do. But there were moments where I was like, okay, maybe I'm just like, I don't have a good attention span.
Yeah.
But I'm getting like maybe a little bored here.
I think that there's a thing that like really in all countries except for the United States. Like we're the only one that fucks this up constantly. All other countries are like, a little bit of boredom in a movie is okay if it makes the reflection part better.
Yeah.
If we make you a better person and you're more thoughtful after this movie, the boredom is okay. United States will not stand for that.
No.
Like, we will have you jump across a freeway and grab hands with somebody else.
And I feel like when we watch the movies of 88, there's more in United States cinema. There is more like allowance for things to be a little boring. Modern movies, you can't even have scenes where characters talk unless they're like on top of a truck fighting.
Yeah, or like at least hacky sacking.
Yeah, and I feel like 88 is possibly like a turning point in that.
Yeah,
with, like,
a little bit.
Yeah, where like Die Hard was a movie that like even when they're having conversations, they're like, have them be like in like some like vent ducts. Or
He should be building a bomb during this conversation.
Yeah. So like I feel like this is the turning point, and I think that's where these movies that are like very slow and considered start to die out. But it is very refreshing seeing them. I didn't feel
nobody got kicked in the balls.
Yeah. I didn't feel bored watching this movie because I think I was just enjoying the art and just like the atmosphere so much. And
it's beautiful, obviously. Yeah. It's visually stunning.
And I feel like also anytime they were slowing things down, there was stuff like there was little things happening in the background that was like Well, like when the dad's trying to work and May's just like, I've got to go run errands. But like most of that scene is just him writing and things. Yeah. But you see her off in the background just kind of like farting around with a little shovel.
I mean, but if you take out the interactions with the spirits, which I know that's like a pretty big caveat, but this is a movie about a family that moves to the country, and for an afternoon it feels like maybe the younger daughter is missing, but she's not.
Yeah.
Like... It's like she's gone for 5 hours, and people do get concerned, but not like we're freaking out. It's just like we got to find this little girl, and that's the movie. Like that's the movie. That's what happens.
But I felt like that stuff still hit me very hard because it was not just that she's missing, but it's dealing with the like our mom is sick, and like they've been holding it together as like innocent children the entire time, and like this is the moment where it like breaks off. So I feel like that's what they do instead of like action sequences is like here's where the interpersonal drama and the stuff that's been building breaks.
Yeah.
And it's very adult in that way, but still like even though the style is very childish.
Also something I try to do more and more when I'm like reading Japanese fiction or watching Japanese movies. This movie is supposed to be set in like 1955, I think.
Yeah.
That's 10 years after the atomic bomb. Like, and even in 88, that's like 40 years. So like the generation that made this movie, their parents lived through the bombing.
Or didn't.
Yeah. Or, so like, I guess, I don't know, maybe a movie where just like something where like there's niceness.
Yeah.
In that time, in 55, I wonder if like, that's just a nice fantasy in the same way that the spirit animals are a nice fantasy.
The thing too, I don't really think it's our job to like decide what audience is right for this movie. You know, critics do that and it's annoying. Like, how the fuck do you know? But I'll do it right now because I think it backs up the point of how this movie feels. I would wait until you are like a more patient person. Yeah. This is not a movie for like kids who are spazzes and need video games all the time to watch this. Or if you've got very, very young kids, you know, who are like still on Nick Jr., they could watch this and just like enjoy just like being in the world, and they're not there at that moment yet where they're like, I need violence, I need drugs, I need everything, you know?
Yeah.
So tired of my kids needing drugs.
Just give them the drugs, Greg.
Yeah, just do it because it's easier that way.
They're jonesing for it. I also really appreciated the dad in this movie and just like how like patient and like considerate he is. Like, because he's dealing with like.
You brought that up, Taylor.
Cool.
Because what we're going to do is we're going to slip on into the Patreon section, and we're going to just address that very issue about dads, and the segment is actually called Parents.
Oh.
Do they understand? ? If you are not a Patreon listener, we're going to get you right to the stuff that's after that. Don't worry about it. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. When we come back, Patreon! Hey guys, just briefly interrupting here to lay down some very smooth commercials. If you were on the internet, which I am many times, go on over to yourpopfilter.com. That is your central hub for all the things we're doing. You can get our podcast and see what we are up to on that website. Taylor.
Yes.
Tell the folks about the Amazon.com.
If you'd like to shop on Amazon.com, you should instead go to yourpopfilter.com/Amazon. Buy all your things through there, and it helps us out a little bit with no extra work from you, other than just going to that extra little bit at the front of the URL.
That sounds like a dream. Ryan, YouTube.
Yeah, make sure that you're going to YouTube. If you like listening, but there's not enough for your eyes to do, we totally understand. Go to YouTube, search for Your Pop Filter, and there's a lot of skitsies and bitsies on there that have visuals as well.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Social media, you can find us on twitter.com @YourPopFilter, or also now available on Instagram.
Hey.
At YourPopFilter. Check us out on the social media. Taylor, contact.
If you want to contact us, you can contact us at contact@yourpopfilter.com. If you like the show and you want to tell us how much you love it, or if you hate the show and you want to tell us how much you hate it, send us that. Or if you want to call us on a phone, you can do that at 1-562
Dr. DJ Pop.
DJ Pop. That's 1-562 DR DJ POP. He's our little robot associate, and he takes our messages for us. One of his hands is a
spatula.
His other hand is a
spatula maker.
Hell yeah! So he's always got extra hands.
All right, well, those are the commercials, guys. Let's get you right back to that show.
Trivia.
it is time for trivia. You know how it works, guys. Ring in by saying your own name. Let me finish the question, and I have to accept the answers that are written on my cards. I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do. All right. Skadoosh, let's begin. When this movie was released, what other animated movie was it part of a double feature with?
Ryan.
Grave
of the Fireflies?
Grave of the Fireflies. They were really afraid this movie was not going to make any money at all. Totoro is a play on the Japanese word for Tororo, which means what?
Ryan. Is it like demon or troll? Is it troll?
It's troll. Ryan. Very good. What was initially very different about the two young girls in this movie?
Ryan.
They
have penises?
They did not have penises.
Taylor.
That might count for partial credit because it is kind of based on Miyazaki's own life, like him and his brother, but not quite, Taylor.
They died at the end?
They did not die. Thank goodness they did not die at the end. In like the original script for this movie and on the like box art and poster art, the two girls are just one girl.
Oh, really?
And if you look, it's weird to me that they would do this, but if you look at the box art, you can see, it's like a girl that's like halfway between both of their ages and has like kind of the look of both of them, wears the dress of one, has the hairstyle of the other, but they felt like they needed that. All right. Totoro went on to enjoy a second career as what for Studio Ghibli?
Ryan? Like mascot?
Mascot. Very good. Although a critical success, the movie didn't even break even until what appeared on shelves 2 years after its release?
Taylor.
The
action figures?
I will give it to you. The like Totoro plushie.
Yeah.
2 years after the movie came out, they released like the doll, and then people were like, "This is probably a really good movie."
That's something they could have learned from America. Merchandise immediately.
Yeah, dude.
That's
right
how Power
away.
Rangers made its money back.
One of these dolls is prominently featured in what Pixar movie?
Taylor. Toy Story?
Which one?
2?
Not Toy Story 2.
Ryan. Toy Story 3?
Toy Story 3. Just like one of the toys in the other girl's house, the one that Woody goes to for a little bit. Although a critical success, don't do that one, you guys, because I already said it. Discovered on December 31st, 1994, 10160 Totoro is what?
Taylor. It's an asteroid?
It is an asteroid.
Fuck yeah!
Good job. It's an asteroid. What was opened in 2001 to celebrate the accomplishments of Studio Ghibli?
Ryan.
An
amusement park?
Not an amusement park.
Taylor.
A
museum?
A museum. What is featured there as a life-size replica from this movie?
Taylor.
Totoro. Not Totoro.
Fuck.
Ryan. May?
Not May. Taylor.
Is it the cat bus?
It's the cat bus.
Yeah.
Why would they have May? Who wants to go see a life-size little girl? Those are everywhere.
we advanced technology enough to recreate a 4-year-old
girl. She just screams at you. During the 2005 World Expo in Japan, to honor the film, what was built and open to the public?
Taylor.
An
amusement park?
Not an amusement park.
Shit.
Ryan. A museum?
Not a different museum. No, it was a model of the house. A life-size model of the house from it.
I love that.
That seems easy to make because the house was beat the fuck up.
Yeah, just a couple houses jammed together. The tiny suit creatures living in the house appear in what 2001 Studio Ghibli movie?
Taylor. Howl's Moving Castle?
Not Howl's Moving Castle.
Ryan. Spirited Away?
Spirited Away.
Spirited Ryan.
Who or what from this movie makes an appearance in that movie, as well as Pom Poko, Kiki's Delivery Service, and Whisper of the Heart?
Ryan. Cat Bus?
Not Cat Bus. The other answer.
Tadpoles?
Not Tadpoles. You didn't ring in. Your name is not Tadpoles. You were Taylor. And it's also not the right answer. The right answer is Totoro. I guess he's like sort of skulking in the background.
Oh.
When May is walking around with corn, a goat walks up and bares its large teeth. What is noteworthy about the goat's teeth?
Ryan. They're good for eating cans?
Crap. Yep, that's what it is.
Oh, God damn it.
They're good for eating cans. Good answer, Ryan. That's what it says right here. Good for eating cans.
Is another answer that they're human teeth?
Yeah, it's that it's got a set of top teeth and bottom teeth, and goats only have top teeth. Taylor will also get
just like Taylor does.
Good job, Taylor.
Thank you.
Only the toppies. What is the name of the 13-minute sequel to My Neighbor Totoro, written and directed by Miyazaki?
Taylor. My other neighbor Totoro.
There's two named Totoro. It's so awkward. I never know who anybody's talking about. Technically, that's not correct.
Ryan, my roommate Totoro.
No, it's May and the kitten bus.
Ah, she's got a little bus?
She's got a tiny little kitten bus. Totoro's appearance reminds me of what power-up from Mario?
Taylor.
The Tanuki suit.
The Tanuki suit. I feel like there's two different references to that. Also, when there's the statue later, that's the statue that the Tanuki suit turns into.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Greg, that's a point for me. My Neighbor Totoro is a movie I just made up. Describe it to me now.
Ryan. Okay. So the new neighbor moves in, and unfortunately, he screams one word, and he has an arm that is growing and growing, and now it's in your house, and now you have to move out.
All right, you want to pick it up from there, Taylor?
Yeah, so it just keeps growing and growing, and then it turns into a giant tree. And then you have to climb that tree with a big fuzzy bear. And then a guy shows up on a really kick-ass motorcycle, and he tries to kill that bear for, like, no reason.
But the motorcycle has 12 leg wheels and a big cat face in front of it.
All right, Ryan, I'm going to give that one to you.
And also the tree's a 4-year-old.
Which of my two cats is most like Totoro?
Ryan. Artemis.
Why?
Because that's the name I can remember of the two.
Fuck.
Wrong.
Taylor. Artemis.
No. I mean, why? But why? Say why.
Because that's the only of the names I can remember.
Oh, wait,
Ryan.
Artemis.
Okay, why?
Because it's fat.
No, Athena's fat.
Sorry.
That's it. Trivia's over. This whole podcast ought to be over. Come on. We're done. Gentlemen, nothing very bad happens in this movie, and it has obviously a very happy ending. But is there something dark and ominous throughout this film?
Yeah, I felt it. Like, I couldn't place exactly what it is. I think it's just, like, the crushing weight of, like, bad things can happen at any moment, and you don't know. Like, as soon as they introduced the sick mom, I was like, oh, no. Like, something could go wrong at any moment.
And I can't believe, having sat through 85 or 84 of the first minutes of the 86-minute movie, that she made it out. Like, halfway through the movie, they're at the hospital, and the mom's like, oh, yeah, we'll totally do that when I get home. And I was just thinking, bitch, there's no way you're getting home. You're so dead.
Never in a million years.
But that is like a bigger twist than M. Night Shyamalan could have ever written.
Yeah.
Was that mom made it through the movie, and like at the end in the credits, you see her getting off the taxi. She's like, she made a recovery.
She legit goes home and spends time with her daughters.
I wonder if
did not see that coming.
How much of the ominous is Miyazaki setting the tone, and how much is it our American expectations of what happens in quote unquote movies?
Right. That's a good question. I think it's a little of both. First of all, I think he is intending to invoke the like haunted house thing, right? You're moving into the country into a new house, and there's spirits inside there. And so I think just by even bringing that up, you're kind of like dealing with horror. And then I think he always kind of keeps his foot on the gas a little bit, so that like Totoro is cute and nice, but he is a little creepy, right? Like, there is something about him. Like, he's a little too big. He yells a little too loud. He has human teeth, which I didn't realize how much that freaked me out until watching this.
And every time he interacts with the girls and, like, it does that really big, loud bellow, like, like that is an aggressive move, and it seems like he might eat them at any moment.
Yeah, like playing with a tiger.
When May meets her neighbor Totoro,
yes,
she keeps she says throughout the first half of the movie before she meets him, I'm not fucking scared of anything.
Yeah,
and a lot of the times she proves it. No more in that time though, where this fucking monster could eat you, dude. Like, it would have no problem destroying you.
Accidentally roll over on top of you and just smother you in its sleep.
But what happens is she lays on the belly and fucks with a sleeping monster. Don't do that, first of all. And as Totoro slowly wakes up, he only does cute things. Like, he's not even startled awake. He opens his eyes up, big smile, yells in such a way where May is not scared at all and thinks it's part of the game.
Yeah.
You know? So right away, we're saying that whether this is part of May and her sister's shared imagination or if there's a real creature living next door, this is the level we're at. You know, everyone is friends with everyone.
And maybe
everybody knows your name.
I do also think that maybe it's a Western thing, maybe not, but when we hear this mom is sick and then she's almost coming home and then it's like, wait, no, she's not coming home, I think everybody is just ready for this mom to totally buy it.
Yeah. And also, I feel like because this was a double feature with Grave of the Fireflies, which is a notoriously sad and
that's a super
movie.
dark movie, right?
Yeah. So I feel like that goes hand in hand. So maybe this was intended as the like everything does end up okay and like counterpart to that movie.
Just so everybody knows, the double feature, and it's the two guys who like sort of are Studio Ghibli. They each made their own 88 movie, and Grave of the Fireflies is more realistic animation. Parents are dead at the beginning of the movie. A brother and sister don't make it to the end of the movie.
Wow.
Like they just survive until they don't and they die. And it is, believe it or not, rough stuff. Like it is hard to watch.
Really? Is it tough to watch these kids just absolutely get eliminated? And the tagline for this movie is, "We brought what you left behind." What does that mean? Because that also sounds like a freaking... That's ominous. Like, oh, shit. That's like, I know what you did last summer.
That's a tagline for a horror movie for sure.
Yeah. We brought what you left behind. I'm spooks just saying it.
Is that related to, like, the acorns? Like that's the only thing that I can think that is... or the umbrella.
Yeah.
But like, I think more... It's got to be some... And maybe there's something lost in translation, but it's got to be something...
Yeah, like
with,
what you left behind might be idiomatic in Japanese,
right?
And then have like a shifting meaning to something else.
But Miyazaki is sort of doing it, right? You left behind this terrible era in Japan, and now movies are different. Or if they're going to be about that era, they're covered in giant arms and motorcycles, okay? And he is going straight back to the past, and then also they're entering this house that is, like full of stuff, and the spirits are around to sort of, they're not big on making you forget or making you remember stuff, but it's got to be something with like you
or like
can't
about
forget.
Childhood,
right?
Yeah,
like
maybe.
this is bringing you back the wonder that you have forgotten from childhood. Because this movie definitely does the convention where adults don't see these spirit things, right?
Yeah,
like they're cut off from that, and so then when we have these protagonists, these little girls, they are in contact with that, and so maybe they are bringing what we left behind, which is our understanding of that world.
Or if you thought about the movie as a person, right? You are the movie.
John Totoro.
You're the movie, My Neighbor John Totoro.
Can you give a point to Greg, please?
Greg.
Well, man, what if like you expect this giant fantasy rabbit and it's John Totoro just sitting there? If you are the movie My Neighbor Totoro, then like there's a May inside of you that has been lost, and you need to figure out how to get to the Totoro to bring the May back into your life or personality or something like that.
Innocent, but also brave,
right?
And fearless, and
not jaded.
Speaks screams to power.
Not cynical.
Maybe Miyazaki accidentally like left his keys behind at some point, and like they were doing that meeting, and it was lost in translation, and there was an error, and he's like, whatever.
So there's two Post-it notes, one that has like this great tagline, and one that says, "We brought what you left behind," just on his keys.
Yeah,
and he gets confused and grabs that one.
Is there an antagonist in this movie, and are you allowed to just not have one?
I didn't think so.
Are you allowed to just make a movie that's like nice about nice things, where maybe something bad happens, but then it turns out it didn't?
But I think the antagonist is just like time and
the real world.
Yeah, life.
The
and
slow fire eroding all of us.
Yeah, the thing that like eventually will take all of us.
What's really interesting about what you said, Greg, about it used to be one character, sort of a blend of the two sisters, because it's always just one girl, right? Alice or Caroline or from Pan's Labyrinth. Like, it's always just the one girl.
Man, I thought about Pan's Labyrinth a lot during this movie.
Yeah.
Because Pan's Labyrinth seems like a brutal rebuttal to this movie.
It seems
like, you think fantasy is going to save you?
It seems like the synthesis of this movie and Grave of the Fireflies.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But so why were there two? And May has most of the big moments. May takes on most of the Alice or Dorothy role. And her older sister, Satsuki, is like growing up, is a full stage ahead of her, and is about to probably not be able to see Totoro and the Cat Bus anymore.
Yeah, for sure.
She's probably like months away.
She can see it when brought to it, but they don't really manifest as often to just her.
But May can see them anytime she sort of wants or needs them to. And so what the movie does is Alice and Coraline and Dorothy, those are all like puberty, right? They're going through puberty. By focusing on May, it sort of says, hey, there are stages between like 4 and 4.5 too. May is a different person. She is like She understands the world better. And that's just an age where we think it's all the same. From 1 month old to 10 years old, it's all the same. You're just the same person. And then you begin changing. Miyazaki says that's not true. Like, Mei has a lot to learn, and there's stages to go through.
Yeah. Oh, very good point. The first time I watched this movie, which was not for this show, I kept waiting for something really bad to happen. I just kept feeling like there was just some dread hanging over the whole thing.
Yeah.
Which is so weird because it's so much the opposite of that in the end. Then watching it this second time, I was cognizant of that, but I was just more into like the really nice parts of it. Because once you know nothing bad is going to happen.
Although I would say it goes too far. Like when the two girls bring their mom that present at the end, it got a little corny.
Oh damn!
I'm leaving. I'm not doing the show anymore.
Little kernels of humor from Ryan. All right, you know what this means?
Speed round.
Time to do the speed round. Does My Neighbor Totoro have its own set of Calvin and Hobbes rules, and whatever they are, it's okay?
Yes. Absolutely. Listen, when he pulls out the random top and he floats away on the top, all bets are off. Who gives a shit?
But I think that, like, Calvin and Hobbes, it becomes clear that it's just a stuffed animal. And they never have Hobbes speaking to the mom.
Yeah. Or, like, leaving... Do we ever get, like, a Hobbes some way interacting with the world that then the mom sees? Because the parents don't see anything in this world, but they see the corn afterwards.
Right. There's some stuff where, like, it does break these rules. I think that it doesn't have set Calvin and Hobbes rules, and I think that the only argument I would say, or what Miyazaki's argument would be, is like, I don't give a fuck, dude. Like, who gives a shit about these Star Wars or like this like world building rules that you need? I don't think they follow rules, and I don't think they care.
I feel like that dad would eventually see the animal spirits. He seems so down with animal spirits. I want to believe in him because then I feel like I can believe in myself.
He seems like he was roommates with animal spirits in college.
How does the movie handle dealing with past, present, and future? Does it handle it the same way as an American movie would?
Yeah, I mean, we touched on the past thing a lot. I think that it's mainly focused on the past. I don't think it's really concerned about the future. Like, it's not commenting on Mei's future that much, and it's not commenting on, hey, just so you know, this is what Japan's going to be like in the future.
Or what like is going on with the parents.
Right.
Really.
Yeah.
Like, in a way that Akira definitely was interested in. But I think this movie is all about the past and deal with it, but not in like a, sorry, guys, you have to deal with the past, but more like a, it's actually great to deal with the past.
Yeah.
You know, it's fun and interesting.
It feels like it's dealing with the past in an eternal way, where it's like, this is the past, but also just like, here's the things that are just always going to be the same.
And what I didn't feel a lot either is, isn't it clear that 55 was so much better than 88? You know, it wasn't like, I'm going to take you guys back to this time where things were great.
Yeah.
I think it's saying all childhoods are great, not the 50s were better than the 80s.
I just think all childhoods matter.
Right.
Why do the girls hide from what they think is the police in the beginning of the movie? Remember they're driving down the road, and then the big sister Satsuki's like looking down the road, and she's like, Mei, hide, it's the cops.
See, having watched the movie, it's like, oh, they're into pretending. But with that's the first time we meet them. I'm now thinking the whole movie, oh, they're criminals.
Yeah, I did not get that. I feel like they must have been playing some sort of game. But I was like, what? Where are they hiding from the cops? What's going on?
And then she's like, oh, it's a postman. Don't worry, Mei.
Those are fine in our world.
She's the guy delivering the mail.
Maybe they're like anti-dog people.
I was about to get the strap, Mei. I was just about to whip the piece out. All right. Be honest. Which Totoro is right for you where you are in your life? Small Totoro, medium Totoro, big Totoro, or John Totoro?
Ooh. You want to say big Totoro so bad.
Yeah.
But that would present so many problems.
I don't want him.
You don't want him?
I actually don't want him. I feel like he's a little persnickety, and he doesn't give me my emotional needs.
Yeah.
I'm a little Totoro person.
You like little Totoro.
Why?
What does little Totoro bring to the table?
He brings like a sense of whimsy, and I like the fact that he's not good at making himself invisible. Like he just kind of forgets sometimes, and I like that about him.
I like that too.
He's the Mei, right?
Yeah, dude, he's like the Mei of the artist.
Because he's also watching the two bigger ones, trying to figure out how life works.
And then the middle one is that little girl from the poster art. That is like a combination of both Mei and Tatsuki. I'm a John Totoro, really, because right at this point in my life, I can't fuck with the Jesus.
But you have to feed him. You have to clean him. You're not ready for that kind of responsibility.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to go the stuffed Totoro from Toy Story 3. That way, when he's alive, I'm not even around, and I don't have to worry about preserving his life in any way.
That's a great choice, Greg.
How important do we think religion and prayer are in this movie? Is it religion, or are we talking spirituality?
And what is the difference? I mean, in this, at this time, in this area, I know that Totoro is not like a Jesus figure, I don't think, even though, you can always pick one in every movie, but maybe not this one. But praying and spirits seem to come very naturally and seem to be very normal.
Yeah.
There's not like wars against religious sects.
Yeah.
Or
I feel like it's dealing very much in that like Shinto tradition where they're like...
That's what I was wondering, yeah.
They're just spirits everywhere. And I think when they go up to the big tree...
And it's very spiritual without being super religious-y.
Yeah, and when they go to the big tree, they have like the shrine, and you're like, there's just shrines everywhere, and it's like a little thing, and it doesn't need to necessarily mean anything.
The part that I liked is I like that like the dad is like moved by this big ass tree, and so then he wants to like pray. That is a spirituality that I understand. Like you see something really beautiful in the natural world, and you're like, I want to give thanks for this, but it doesn't seem like a codified structural religion.
You like to thank you for the tree more than you're in desperate need, and then that's when you call up God.
Yeah, I guess because when I'm in desperate need, I can feel how indifferent the universe is to that.
Yeah.
But when I see something really beautiful, it resonates in me. If it's a natural beauty, it resonates in me, and I feel like, wow, I'm like honored to get to like see this and be a part of it. And it really, then I do feel spiritual. Like if I saw a really big tree like that, I wouldn't mind being like, hey, thanks for this. Like I'm just glad I could be here with this tree.
Yeah, it's like it's a moment where you're like, I'm glad that I'm alive.
But these shrines that were there, were they like how phone booths used to be? Like every so often you'll see one of these shrines, you just stop and pray, or if you're in need of prayer, you'll go and find one because they're everywhere.
There used to be like sort of shrines just like everywhere for all kinds of things, and you would just like write on a little piece of paper and like tack it to it, and like it was just sort of like a very common, like they're just everywhere.
And I'm trying to remember when the older sister prays, is she running past it and she sees it and stops, or does she run right to it? Like, does she make it a point to go get to a shrine before she starts the rest of her searching? I can't remember.
That's a good question. I don't quite remember.
I don't remember in that part.
All right. Well, that is the end of the speed round. We are going to tabulate the scores, tell you your winner, and then put a conclusion on this whole show. Gentlemen, that is it. I have tabulated the final scores with 24 points. A wonderful showing is our challenger, Taylor.
I'm a big boy.
You really did. That's a great job.
I won, right? That's a winning score.
That's one of the higher scores I can ever remember losing on this show. But Ryan scored 25 and still champion.
Fucking damn.
And still best friend. That's a fruit basket coming your way, big guy.
Taylor, if it's any consolation, there used to be a guy on the show named Mike.
Who?
Mike.
Who?
It doesn't matter. And he lost most of the time, but never scored 24 points. So, good job on that. You're better than Mike.
Fuck you, whoever that is.
Well, that's the competition here, but what about this movie going forward in the competition? How do you think it's going to do in this bracket?
I think, we talked about this before, but about 20 minutes in, I was like, oh, come on. What, like, people must have watched this movie as kids, and then that's why they talk about it so fondly now. And, you're not supposed to be thinking about a movie's bracket chances while watching the movie.
Yeah.
But it didn't look good. Now that I've sat on it for a week, I think it's pretty great, and has a lot of the things that a lot of winners may need to have.
I think even though I've liked other movies that I've watched for this bracket so far, I think this is the strongest of the ones that I've been on. I think it has very real chance. I don't know if it has what it takes to go all of the way.
Yeah.
But I think it definitely makes it through round 1 and probably round 2.
Yeah, and I'm certainly glad that we watched it and had a chance to talk about it, because I had seen it one time and came away kind of like, oh, that was a little bit of a weird movie. But it was fun viewing it in such a way to get ready for this podcast. But if you had asked me before this podcast, what do I think the chances are, I would say this is going to be dunked on.
Slaughtered.
In the first round. Yeah, just absolutely destroyed. And when I was watching it, I think I would have felt the same way, because I was like, man, this is a pretty slow movie. But since then, I have thought about it a lot, and it clearly kind of resonated with us. We had a lot of interesting discussion about it, if I do say so myself. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, it has that thing that I always talk about on this show, which is like, I don't feel like you can encapsulate this movie very easily. and we get intrigued with things that we can't just encapsulate. You can't just hand wave away any part of this movie. It gets in you and it makes you think, and you're not sure that you understood it fully, or you don't know why every decision was made or exactly what its goals were.
But want to. You're not
exactly.
sure, but you definitely want to. And we get to then, call up two friends and to hash it out. Not a lot of other people get to do that, but we're awesome. Well, two friends and then Taylor.
Is it, to just pair this movie briefly with Akira, Japanese animated cinema at this time is like a legit thing.
Fucking killing it.
Yeah, I mean, this is so impressive that 2 of 8 movies that we talked about, a quarter of the movies were animated Japanese films and totally feel like they belong.
And Fireflies made the Sweet 16.
Yeah.
It's better than both of these movies, but it wasn't iconic enough or classic enough to make it. But yeah, that's to have 3 like that. I mean, that's 85 in comic book world where you have 3 of the most iconic comic books of all time.
And we talk about iconic on this show a lot, both being emblematic of 88 and being timeless. What is more emblematic of 88 and timeless than the character of Totoro himself or itself or their self?
And then, it's also, 88 is clearly, I'm not sure I knew this before, but 88 part of 88 is being, this whole opening from Japan to here, and us finally realizing that other countries make movies and that those weird cartoon looking things that only nerds watch, actually anybody could watch them. It wasn't till this year where that started to leak over.
Next week we will be doing another at least partially animated movie, Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Not Cool World. We're gonna go with that one.
Not Cool World. We're doing Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I'm very excited about that. Very excited to dig in. Check that out next week. We will see you then. Until then, keep watching them movies.